This is one of Respect Graduate School's live broadcasts. We are live on YouTube. I hope you can see us well and hear us well. We have some speakers and some guests tonight. We are gonna talk about the necessity of education for the betterment of humanity. So we're gonna hear from different speakers, their views and opinions. We are going to try to keep this program about 50 to 60 minutes, no more than an hour. This is completely unrehearsed. I hope everything goes well. So the outline of the program is as follows. I'm going to show you a brief introduction video of our graduate school. Then we're going to have the faculty dean, Professor Halim Çalış. He's going to talk about the master's degree program. Then we are going to have Imam Beytullah of Respect Graduate School. He's going to recite some verses from the Quran and he's going to give us some meanings. And we have Dr. Craig Considine. He's going to talk about his book and his views on education. And we have some current and former students of Respect Graduate School. Without further ado, I'll play the video, which is going to be less than 3 minutes, just to get the ball rolling. So here we go. Let's share the video and watch the intro.
Respect Graduate School is a school for students to receive a master's in Islamic studies.
Lectures, conferences, receptions, religious events.
There is no institution like Respect School in this area. That's why I'm really happy to be with you guys. Give you a lot of chances to meet new people.
They're really involved in the community and they visited the Islamic Center in Stroudsburg.
You can get people from the community to come into Respect and to meet each other and to work together.
I try to attend many of their functions. I hope that everybody feels welcome to come here to visit.
Oh, I love coming here. I felt so welcome when I came in. It's wonderful. It's just so friendly and loving, and the art is nice, and the food is, oh my God.
I wanted to provide our Muslim international students with space for prayers on Friday. So I worked with our chaplain and we met some of the graduate students here who have been helping us since then lead the Friday prayers. So this is how I'm connected and this is how I started coming here.
I'm super impressed. I think Respect is awesome, and Muslims coming together is really gonna help the Muslims in America kind of find their identity and find their culture.
Respect Graduate School as an important dimension to our life in the Valley here.
The more you learn about other cultures, the more you understand them. To understand that we're more alike than we are different.
Communicate and help and supporting the community, I think it's wonderful. We need more people to be involved culturally.
What they've done with the building is awesome, beautiful.
How beautiful the campus is and how much is really offered here.
I wish there was more places in the city like it, honestly. Just an amazing place like this to really learn and come together.
I was blown away. Like, I just wanted to stay here. I love everything that it represents, everything that is about it, and I'm so eager to tell my friends that look into Islamic studies so heavily that there is something close to home for them.
I think there's a saying in Islam, mashallah, so it's wonderful.
This culture, you know, helps bring people in and learn more about Islamic culture and other cultures, and especially what we do here because we're teaching Islamic studies. I think it kind of helps to bring the two worlds together and bring people in and to learn about what we do and help to connect them very well.
Right, we are back in the room. Yes, Respect Graduate School is fairly young, but full of ambition. It is... So I just, a bit of technical glitch there, I apologize. So let's go back to the room. Young, but full of energy and impressive vision. So I would like to ask Professor Halim Çalış to give us a brief information about Respect Graduate School, particularly the master's degree program. Professor Çalış, the podium is yours, sir.
Thank you. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is doing great and staying safe, inshallah. I hope we will have a productive meeting today, inshallah. First of all, I would like to thank my colleagues, my respected colleagues, Dr. Gök and Dr. Considine, for being with us today. They will enlighten us in their presentation, I believe, about today's topic, education, and its most important aspect, as it's been an ultimate solution for every kind of problems. As for me, I would like to give you a brief information about the Respect Graduate School as an educational institution and our scholarly programs at Respect Graduate School. I will try not to take your much time. Let me share my screen with you first. Okay. Respect Graduate School is an educational institution established 5 years ago in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It is an institution dedicated to education, primarily in Islam and Islamic studies. You can mention, many reasons, of course, to explain the necessity and importance of establishing educational institutions. From Islamic perspective, besides the other reasons, one of the most important reasons would be perhaps the lofty status of knowledge and its virtues, according to Islam. When we talk about education, we basically talk about knowledge, because education is basically the name of the process of getting knowledge. Yes, knowledge and the search for knowledge are among the most meritorious things in Islam. Therefore, it is not surprising to find many verses in the Quran and many hadiths, the prophetic traditions, about the lofty status of knowledge and of the search for knowledge. You can even find, many separate books, voluminous books written on this subject in Islamic literature. I am currently working on a medieval book, a tafsir book, namely a book on the interpretation of the Quran. It is very nice coincidence. The other day, I was reading this book, and the part I was reading was about the virtues of knowledge in Islam. Many verses from the Quran, many hadiths of the Prophet, and statements of the Muslim scholars are listed in this part, and they are explained. It is not possible to mention all these statements here. We don't have time for this. But I would like to mention one hadith, only one in this subject. This hadith is quite famous. I am sure everybody knows it. In this hadith, the Prophet is reported to have said, "Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim." The search for knowledge is an obligation on every person, male or female, doesn't matter. It is an obligation on everybody. This is a very famous tradition, and Muslim scholars have addressed and commented on this tradition. However, they try to explain this incumbent knowledge according to their preoccupation. For example, Muslim theologians, understood this incumbent knowledge as about Islamic faith. For example, scholars of Islamic jurisprudence understood it as Islamic law, and Muslim mystics explain it as a mystical knowledge, ma'rifatullah, a kind of spiritual knowledge about God attained through, spiritual practices. However, the hadith does not specify the type of knowledge here. The hadith uses a very general expression when it says talabul ilmi, the search for knowledge. So it can be any knowledge beneficial to individuals and society. It can be religious knowledge and even secular knowledge. So Respect Graduate School was established to serve this ultimate purpose, to help people to gain knowledge and to contribute to spreading knowledge and to contribute to creating knowledgeable society. But it is interested in Islamic aspect of knowledge only. As it is stated in our mission, Respect Graduate School is an academic institution through which students and faculty engage in teaching, learning, and research primarily in Islamic studies. For this purpose, Respect Graduate School has many programs in Islamic studies conducted in 2 languages, English and Turkish. But our main program is, of course, our MA program in Islamic studies. Now, I would like to briefly talk about our MA program. Let me tell you first about the history of the program. About 2 years ago, Respect Graduate School signed for partnership with Islamic Sciences and Research Academy of Australia, which we call ISRA, in collaboration with Charles Sturt University of Australia. ISRA is an educational institution like Respect, located in Australia, and Charles Sturt University is a big Australian university. It is a globally accredited university. According to our agreement, students will take 8 courses from RGS, Respect Graduate School. After that, they will take 4 additional courses from ISRA. When they are done with their study by completing these 12 courses, Charles Sturt University will grant them with the MA degree and the diploma. All these courses are offered online. So what are these 12 courses? Let me show you the RGS courses on our website. Okay. These are the courses offered by RGS. Some of them are Islamic worldview and theology. Some language courses about Arabic, Arabic 1 and Arabic 2. We have Essentials of Islamic Spirituality course. We have Methodology of Hadith, which is called Usul al-Hadith. Methodology of Quranic Exegesis, Usul al-Tafsir. Methodology of Islamic Law, Usul al-Fiqh. And Islamic History and History of Islamic Civilizations. When students are done with the RGS courses, they will enroll in Charles Sturt University and start taking courses from ISRA. And these are some of the courses students can take from ISRA, such as interpreting Islamic sacred text, Islamic theology, Islamic economy, Islamic banking and finance, and guided research in Islamic studies. And there are more courses, and you can see all the courses in the ISRA website. Okay, many friends, many applicants who want to register for our courses but not sure whether their English level is proficient, they reach us and ask if they are able to join. In this case, we test their English level. If their English level is not proficient for taking MA courses, we teach them general English and academic English in several levels. You can find more information in our website about our English language program. In addition to our MA in Islamic Studies program and general and academic English programs, we also have some certificate programs. One of them is Tilawatul Quran certificate program. In this program, participants learn how to recite the Quran properly and according to the rules. For now, the courses are taught in the Turkish language only, but we will launch the English version soon, inshallah. Students learn at Respect Graduate School not only the recitation of the Quran, but also the meaning of the Quran and in the interpretation of the Quran. We have some courses on the Quran, interpretation of the Quran, for example, in our MA program, but we also have a separate certificate program dedicated to the Quran and the Quranic studies. It is called Quran Certificate Program. We teach the courses of this certificate program in 2 languages, in Turkish and English. The aim of this program is to teach students the Quranic Arabic so that they will be able to understand the language of the Quran on their own, and also to make them conversant with the concepts of the Quranic studies, its terminology, its literature, and so on. Another program at Respect Graduate School is CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. We help the students to get their CPE certificate, which is essential in Islamic chaplaincy. We are also planning to create more scholarly programs in the upcoming academic year, inshallah. These programs will focus on Islam in the West and Muslims living in the Western context, inshallah. And the last thing I want to add is that we are in the process of establishing a center for Islamic studies at Respect. This center will organize scholarly events. In the past, we organized several conferences, the lecture series at Respect Graduate School, and this is one of them, Islam in America. It was held in 2017. The next event will be an online conference in this November, inshallah, November 2020. We are organizing this conference with Huron University of Canada and with Dr. Ingrid Mattson from Huron University together, inshallah. As you know, Dr. Ingrid Mattson is one of the most prominent Muslim scholars and intellectuals, and we are extremely happy to work with her for this organization. This is all I want to say, I guess. Let me finish my words by reminding this. You can find more information about the Respect Graduate School and our scholarly programs in our website, respectgs.us. You can also reach us by email if you have any questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Professor Çalış. I hope Respect Graduate School really picks up and becomes a global brand, because the mission is impressive and I believe we are on the right path. Now I would like to pass the microphone to Imam Beytullah to recite us some verses from the Quran. Sheikh, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. The first revelation of Quran, inshallah, we will start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى. إن إلى ربك الرجعى. أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى. أرأيت إن كان كلا لئن لم ينته لنسفعا بالناصية ناصية كاذبة خاطئة فليدع ناديه سندع الزبانية كلا لا تطعه واسجد واقترب صدق الله العظيم. Just reminder for the brothers, the last ayah is tilawat al-sajda. You should do the prosternation, inshallah, after the program. So the first revelation, please go back 1400 years ago. The first word from Allah through the Jibreel alayhi salam to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is not less than Iqra. Read. Read in the name of your Lord who created man out of a cloth of congregated blood. Again, read. Second time, read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. Inshallah, I just want to share the first verses. So why Allah start to through his prophet to fight the ignorance time by the pen and by the word. Iqra. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. As a former physicist and current philosopher and theologian, I have always been impressed with the first verse of the Quran. It says, read and learn. And as Professor Halim Chalish pointed out, it is not seeking the religious knowledge, it is seeking the knowledge in general. So most of the time when I study, my wife says, so what are you reading now? I say, I'm reading quantum physics these days. She says, what is the connection? I said, it is knowledge. The more you know about the universe, about the world, the better you understand your purpose of existence and the divine message. This is what I always promote in my lectures. I said, I'm a physicist and I also teach philosophy and theology, but they go hand in hand. You cannot say, leave science and art and general knowledge and focus on religion. I'm afraid it doesn't work like that. We promote knowledge as a whole. I would like to ask our former students and current colleagues on their takes on education and their impressions of their studies. Latif, would you like to say a few words about your experience of studying master's degree at Respect Graduate School? The floor is yours, Latif. I think Latif is not there. Fatima, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's swap places.
Okay.
The podium is yours. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I first of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share my experiences with Respect College. And I must say that it has been a wonderful one that I've had at Respect. It gave me an opportunity to not only broaden my knowledge of the Islamic sciences, but also to come and understand all the different schools of thought that have different views and areas in Respect that they offer and they teach. So there was a broad spectrum of that, and it really broadened my horizon and understanding and grew upon whatever Islamic knowledge that I may have had, and was able to really appreciate more so the world around me. I find it very important to obtain this education in all educations in order to not only further for myself, but also be able to offer it in and enlighten others in the process as well. Because with this degree in the knowledge that you obtain, you're able to then impart it to others in the light that you see it, along with the education that they give it. And so I found my experience at Respect very enlightening and very fruitful. And I'm very privileged and honored to have been able to be part of this institute. Though it is very early on, very few years that it has opened, but really, as a graduate, I have very fond ideas and memories of the place there, as well as the staff and the fellow students that I also interacted with. And it was very nice and pleasant because I met a lot of students that were from other parts of the world and other nationalities. And that in itself is very enlightening and very educational and useful for me. So I think it was a very wonderful experience that I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to be able to go to such institutes and embark upon this journey of obtaining this knowledge and really expanding one's horizon.
Thank you. Thank you, Fatima.
You're welcome.
Dr. Craig Considine, it is great to have you in the room. Probably our followers are already aware that you have recently published a book with a beautiful cover. Would you like to tell us the reason behind your research? How come? I mean, what was your drive? And what did you find out in a nutshell? Can you briefly tell us about your book first, please?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all of you who are tuning in. Before I get into my own personal journey, let me also say that I had the privilege of visiting Respect Graduate School. I think it was in February or so, and I was there to give a talk at an event on education and knowledge. And for me, what really stood out was not only the hospitality that Respect Graduate School showed me personally, but also the diversity of human beings that were present at this interfaith gathering. And I think it's really important to recognize the importance that diversity plays in expanding our knowledge. And when I was experiencing this event at Respect, it wasn't merely religious diversity either. It was an event of people of all walks of life in terms of faith, but it was also diversity in terms of cultural backgrounds, ethnicity, and race. And I think this is such an important factor, diversity, how important it is to get different perspectives of human civilization and the diversity of human life. All of these things make us better human beings. And for me personally, you know, my entire journey and this book that I wrote, and I'll try to make references to it as I go forward, but this entire journey that I'm on really started with knowledge, and it's still about knowledge. When it came time for me to decide what to study in college when I was 19 years old, I was going into college with this assumption that there was a conflict or a clash of civilizations. I was 15 years old when 9/11 happened, had never met a Muslim in my life, had no idea about Islam or Muhammad or anything related to the stuff that we were seeing in the media. So I go to college and I decide to start taking Arabic classes, and I decide to take Islam classes, Islam 101 classes. And I was so lucky and privileged to have an amazing educator. His name was Professor Akbar Ahmed. He's currently the Ibn Khaldun Chair of Islamic Studies at American University. And before he said really anything about the rich history of Islam, he said, "You are here to learn, and learning is fundamental in the Islamic tradition." And that blew my mind. I thought he was going to start talking about Al-Qaeda or Afghanistan or Iraq, because all of these things were popping up in the news. And he's just started discussing this rich backdrop of hadiths, which are talking about the importance of knowledge. And one hadith in particular really stood out to me. And Professor Ahmed told us the ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. And that one quote right there, which obviously places significant emphasis on knowledge, really just busted open everything that I had thought I knew in my head and my heart. That's another important issue with knowledge. You know, it's not all up here. It's also in here too. We have to open up our hearts and our minds. So, you know, the importance of a good teacher. If you have a good teacher in your life, and I know there are many good teachers at Respect Graduate School, place your faith in them. Let them guide you. It's really important to allow yourself to be educated. God has blessed me with this inclination to follow and place my faith in teachers. So I trusted Dr. Ahmed, and I allowed him to bring me on a journey of not only learning and educating myself in terms of books, peer-reviewed journal articles, and theories, and all of these other kind of sources that are traditionally linked to education. But he really encouraged me and pushed me to learn through human interaction. And I think that is such a critical component of our development as learners, as scholars, as people of conscience, to find and strike a balance between what we are reading and applying that to the real world. You know, as a sociologist, I tell my students, we're not going to be merely learning about sociology, we're going to be doing sociology, right? So we're going to learn about things we see in our books, but we're also going to go out there into the world. You know, we're going to enter different places of worship. We're going to enter the masjids and the churches and the synagogues. We're going to visit different cultural centers in urban environments and rural environments. And we're really going to allow ourselves to open up. We're going to allow even uncomfortable situations to happen in the hope that we can kind of soak in all of these different experiences that can better us. And let me also say too, you know, I think a really important part of education is challenging our core beliefs. You know, reading pieces or books that we may be unfamiliar with, and that also may fundamentally challenge what we think deep inside of us. You know, for me, at first, I was really hesitant to walk into a classroom to start learning about the Islamic faith. And it took some time to kind of get beyond that. And I also found myself, and I'm sure we have so many learned people on this panel, like with education too and learning, oftentimes I find myself at least having to unlearn before I really started moving forward and learning. You know, like I think part of the young Craig, if I could put myself in the first person, like I was a bit brainwashed. Like I was kind of buying into the propaganda and I had all these ideas. And, you know, before I really could start digesting the beauty of something like Islam and even my own faith, Christianity, I really had to kind of differentiate between like what is legitimate and what is kind of maybe noise or nonsense. So for me, this has always been a journey about knowledge, and it still is. And learning and education never ends. It really doesn't. You know, we can all, some of us may claim we're experts on this and that, but there's always someone that probably knows more than we do. In terms of the book, The Humanity of Muhammad, the longest chapter in this book, which is the 4th chapter, is titled Seeking Knowledge. And it's actually a lot longer than the other chapters. And what I found really striking about our conversation here is this kind of balance between learning and educating ourselves in the religious realm and also in the secular realm, and also understanding that knowledge is beautiful for the sake of knowledge and that it comes from all different dimensions of human civilization. The chapter in this book, Seeking Knowledge, what I focus on are the moments in history where this idea of Islamic civilization and Christian civilization are coming together, and they're actually sharing knowledge together. And I think this is another critical component of learning and educating. As I mentioned, studying the books is obviously critically important. Going out there and experiencing different religions or different cultures, but also we always have to remember this, and this is probably the most important: sharing our knowledge. What value and what good is our knowledge if we selfishly keep it inside of us and we don't share it with other people? You know, if some of us are not happy with what's happening in the world, and we think that we have the knowledge to counteract some of these negative things that are happening, and if we don't share our knowledge, then we can't complain, because we're not doing our duty. You know, if God is blessing you with knowledge, it's your duty also to make sure that you're sharing this wealth of knowledge that you may have with others. So I think Respect Graduate School, let me say, you know, from a first-hand experience with them, and it's not only with that one moment when I visited last year, but it's also the continued friendship and partnership that I've sustained with the scholars at Respect Graduate School. These are people who I'd like to consider cross-cultural navigators. These are individuals who are really adept, and they're able to understand different civilizations, different religions, different walks of life. And I think this fine balance of being able to kind of put all of these different realms of knowledge together into a core realm of knowledge is really significant, and I think it's really important. So I would like to bless really the Respect Graduate School for the amazing work that they're doing, and that I'm confident that they're going to continue to do. And let me just remind all viewers again of the three main takeaways here. Keep studying, keep reading. First word of the Quran, Iqra, read. All the hadiths on seeking knowledge and the importance of scholarship. Make sure that you supplement that with human interactions, because human interactions help us understand the complicated theories. And then lastly, if you have knowledge, don't selfishly keep it to yourselves. Make sure that you go out there and you share it in the hope of making this world a better place. So thank you.
So my understanding is you highlighted 2 points, one of which is the importance of continuous learning, education, and the other one was interaction. We say it dialogue. I'll just tell you about my personal experience. When I was a young boy at school, like every nation, we have national default enemies. That's the Greeks. So I came to Britain and I ended up being best friends with the Greeks. They're fantastic guys. I mean, their sense of humor is the same. They are Mediterranean. Their cuisine is the same. And I end up being best mates with them. Then I said, interaction is the key, because you're the enemy of which you don't know. So 2 important things, education and dialogue. Another important thing to solve social problem is probably creating industry and employment. I think a lot of people, they are drawn into violence and extremism is the lack of aspiration. If you have something to do in life, if you have a job to go to, if you have mortgage to pay, you focus on those activities more. I was looking into the reasons of why there are so many extremist groups popping here, there, and everywhere. And probably you have spotted the same pattern. Where there is lack of education, where there is lack of interaction and dialogue, and where there is lack of employment, you end up having it is the hotbed of violence, intolerance, and terrorism. So 3 main problems and 3 main cures. Now I'm going to ask you a challenging question, Dr. Considine. Imagine you are invited to the United Nations with an unlimited budget and political power. So what would be the problem to solve, and what would be your solution to the world's problem?
I think apathy. Apathy is the word that really comes to mind. So for those that may not be familiar with it, apathy is essentially having disinterest or not really caring about something that may be unfolding. And I think part of the reason that we see certain problems continue over generations and generations is because of apathy. And I think we don't recognize as human beings how interconnected we really are. You know, I think nations at the United Nations, you have representatives representing countries, and countries often act in very kind of Machiavellian rational senses. They act in their own benefit. But I think we really need to push our leaders to kind of think beyond their borders and even their regions, and really starting to understand that this world is interconnected. What happens in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, could potentially impact what happens in Jakarta, Indonesia. And we actually see this more than ever with COVID. I mean, COVID doesn't care about borders. COVID is impacting everyone. I mean, that's maybe not directly linked to apathy, but what I would say is that we have to, when I say we, human beings, and if I was in this position of going to the UN, I would try to persuade and convince leaders that the well-being of my country or my region is going to be dependent also on the well-being of your country and your people. You know, we really, it sounds kind of cliche, but we have to start thinking a bit more about a one world planet. And that doesn't mean we all have to agree. We don't need one world government, but we really need to understand how interconnected we are. And to do that, you have to move beyond this I don't care mentality that a lot of world leaders have. The apathy is it's destructive. It's very Darwinian. It lacks all kind of spirituality. It divorces us from the oneness of God and in our single creation, really. We're all human beings. We all bleed. We all have the same organs. We're human beings fundamentally, first and foremost. And hopefully we can start seeing and identifying ourselves as human beings before any nationality, religion, culture, so on and so forth. Now, in terms of the budget, I don't know how I would implement this, but you know what I would do? In the context of this conversation, I would bring educators, not politicians. And I would bring educators and scholars and inspiring world leaders who have done the hard work, who have activated themselves, and they've put in the necessary time and effort, and they've made change. We need to give people hope too. We need to show people that there are people in this world that have a vision for a better world, and they tackle their goal and they implement it. Like we have to move beyond that apathy. Absolutely.
Okay, maybe we will never get to be invited to the United Nations. This is the global dream. But there are things we can do within our own small world. So what would you advise people who are really concerned and who really care about what's happening around us? What can individuals do? Certainly, I don't have unlimited budget and I don't have political power to influence the world and the world leaders, but I'm sure there are certain things that I can do within my own world. Can you say a few words on those, please?
I would actually, you know, it's funny because we started with the UN at a very macro institutional level. Now let's go to the exact opposite. Let's go to the everyday micro sociological level of how we treat other people. You know, Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Beautiful. Right? So if you want to have better neighbors, be a better neighbor. If you want people to understand who you are and what your identity is, tell them what that is. And even something even more microscopic, if you want to make this world a better place, if you want to combat misunderstanding, bigotry, racism, let's take the high road, let's be the bigger person, and let's actually break bread together. I know that sounds so simple, but inviting people over that you may disagree with, that may fundamentally clash with you, let's talk over food, let's share the food together. And before we start talking about really complex things, let's say like institutional racism or what the Bible says about this or what the Quran says about this, let's put all of this aside and let's just talk about being human. Let's talk about who we are. We can talk about being a father, a son, a daughter, an employee, a neighbor. You know, like we need to build trust. We need to build rapport and familiarity before we can really start tackling some of these very deeply rooted institutional issues. I think it starts at it does start at a very small level, but I'm also not kind of ignoring the impact that world leaders can have that have a huge platform at something like the UN. So a healthy combination of these two things, I think, is leading us into the right direction.
I think, goodness should start from home and from our own selves. Only yesterday, I was quite concerned about the mess on my street. I got few neighbors and their children. It is like cul-de-sac, so there is no through traffic, and children playing around and making a mess. And I thought, there is quite a bit of mess here. Should I call the city council and ask them to send someone to tidy up? Then I found a garden brush. I said, let me just do my bit. I came back from running. I started brushing the pavement and picked the bits. Within a few minutes, this is 100% true. It happened only yesterday. Across the street, the neighbor came out and she started picking bits and bobs here and there. It is contagious. Instead of us, preaching people and telling them what to do, if you start doing it yourself, it is contagious. You influence other people and they start doing the right thing. I think when it comes to solve the global problems, we should start from home and we should set the example, doing our little things. We talk about global warming and we still drive, 3-liter petrol car instead of electric vehicle, for example. We should start revolution within ourselves.
And I think, if I can add, like it's an important part of education and learning and knowledge, our main focus right now. And to really teach people, let me pose a hypothetical situation, say I'm a Christian and I have a Muslim neighbor, and let's say I invite them over and we immediately start talking about really complex spiritual texts and verses. How are we to really assume that we can properly educate this person without first getting to know them? You know what I mean? We need to almost take a step back. And I agree with what you're saying. We as individuals need to be the example. If you want to teach someone about your faith, show them your faith. Maybe first before anything, show them the hospitality, show them the compassion and the care, develop a friendship, and then you can really dive into the education and to the knowledge. It takes a bit of humbleness, I think, too. We're bringing up some deep stuff here, but to be properly educated, you also need to be humble. You need to kind of take a step back and realize that, need to be humble.
I think sometimes the best lessons you learn from the least expected person. Normally, you got these cultural prototypes of someone from country X, country Y. What do they know? We are from the West. We rule the world. But when you talk to the person, they come up with their broken English, with a bit of wisdom. Yes, you think, wow, this is worth a 1-year intensive course. You learn more with, one message from someone completely unexpected. And it is, I'll also tell you one of my personal experience. I let my wife do the driving because she's a safe driver. And when the light changes from amber to red, I usually accelerate and pass the light before it turns red. But she's very cautious, very polite. She stops. I say, you could have passed. And she says, at the time, we were living predominantly white area, and she's one of the rare Muslim women with a headscarf. And she says, I will never let anybody say that Muslim driver was inconsiderate. I'm gonna set the best example, stick to the speed limit, be Christian. We say in Britain, whilst driving, we call it Christian driving. Be polite, let people pull in, give way, you follow the rules and you set the example. And it is true, it is contagious, it spreads.
It teaches us to be responsible, you know, like we can't expect other people to follow certain guidelines if we don't follow them ourselves, you know. Can I add one quick thing?
Go ahead.
About knowledge. You know, as I mentioned, I do think traditionally all of us think of knowledge and education through the lens of, you know, theories and complex studies and methodologies, all of which I'm certainly not saying aren't important. But let me also say, like, when I've gotten into, let's say, heated conversations with largely people that hold anti-Muslim views, instead of diving into, you know, well, you know, Edward Said said this about Orientalism, I just give them a life event that I had, a memory that I had. So I was at a church in Kingwood, Texas, which is pretty conservative, and as you might imagine, you know, kind of a rural Texas Christian town. And within 5 minutes of my talk, someone stood up in the back of the room and was just like, Muslims are bad people. And I just said, let me tell you a story. I was in California, and this is actually a true story. I was in Hollywood. I was doing research with Professor Ahmed, who I mentioned earlier. And I was at a gathering and we were showing my documentary. And I had not known at the time that I was allergic to peanuts. And I was eating peanuts. And within 15 minutes, I was rushed to the hospital. It was a near-death experience. And the next day, you know, my parents are like, I was like 22 years old. I was done with my master's. I had no health insurance, as many Americans don't. And I had no way of paying for this. It was, I don't know how much money. And the person who hosted the party, Dr. Malik, said, don't worry about your bills. I'm going to pay for your bills. I mean, to me, I will never forget that. What a generous, compassionate act. Simple act. Well, it's not simple. It's very, I mean, to me, I would be broke if I had to pay something like that. But, and the guy in the back of the Kingwood Church, who I told that to you, literally couldn't say anything because all he said was Muslims are bad people. And I said, so are you telling me that this person that paid for my medical bills is a bad person? To me, that's knowledge. That's knowledge through a human experience. No one can take that away from me. That is truth. That is knowledge. It's a reality that I lived. So let me remind the viewers, you know, Respect Graduate School, I think, can offer you those moments and those memories where you meet people and you have that memory in your head that can serve as an effective tool, as a theory or a book. So just to remind our viewers of that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Sorry, thank you very much. Really, we start to our friendship in in ISNA,
that's
Houston, right. Last year, September. And God guide me really to meet with you over there. And thanks God, in these very few months, this relationship go. Thanks God. Just a question as a mission of the Respect Graduate School. This go to Dr. Hakan. He is doing his research about Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, and you ask and you push Dr. Craig with your questions to resolve all the problems. Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, 100 years ago, you know, the diagnosis is very important. Discover the problems is very important. 100 years ago, unfortunately, right now, that mosque in Damascus is in very bad maybe situation for the war. But remember, please, that event to us, that knowledge of the Nursi, 100 years ago, he tried to meet with Abdul Hamid to say the Islamic world have this kind of the disease and the solution is this. Can you help us to understand, please?
Yes, indeed. I mean, whenever I start an event like this, I say, oh, we got 60 minutes. How are we going to fill this? Then suddenly time just flies. We say, we need another session. It is true when Nursi...
Please feel free. We give you 15 minutes more.
When Nursi came to Istanbul almost 100 years ago, he met fellow Kurds in Istanbul. They were very poor. And they were very upset about the situation. And they said, we should rebel, we should fight. And Nursi says, hang on, guys. Your problem is not the regime or this or that. He says, your problem is three. One is ignorance, one is intolerance, and one is poverty. And he says, we should address these three problems with education, dialogue, and industry, which I highlighted in a disguise earlier when I was talking to Dr. Craig. It is true. These are the three main issues, not only in the Muslim world, in the world in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ignorance, intolerance, and poverty. So we should try to address these three problems with these three cures. As I promised at the start of this program, I said I'll try to stick to 60 minutes limit. And I think it's a beautiful start. And it gives a substance to discuss on our next meeting. So probably our viewers are mentally prepare themselves to watch us for 60 minutes. That's why I would like to wrap it up now and promise our viewers to subscribe to our channel and turn the notification button on so that they can be notified on our next session so that we can continue discussing and, bring forward solutions. So I would like to close the program here, but before I close, I would like to ask Professor Halim Çalış if he would like to say a final word.
Thank you very much. In my part, I forgot to thank Sister Fatima and Brother Latif and Imam Beytullah. Sorry about that. I also thank you for participating. Thank you.
Years ago, when we used to do programs like this, we used to get together, spend the day together, rehearse and prepare the questions. Now it's on Zoom. Everything is improvised. But it's been beautiful. It's been very useful. I certainly learned new things. I certainly enjoyed the last 60 minutes. And I think there is certainly material for another meeting in the future. Once again, I would like to remind all our viewers to sign up to this channel, turn the notification button on so that they can be with us on our future programs. And I would like to thank Dr. Craig Considine, Imam Sheikh Beytullah, and Professor Halim Çalış, and Fatima and Latif. And on the technical department, I would like to thank our technical team. And thank you for spending your 60 minutes with us. I hope you have enjoyed this program. We hope to see you again on another Respect Graduate School live broadcast.
So we have the word of Dr. Considine for next session because it's really very quickly finished the program. Inshallah.
Okay, so
I'll come back whenever. Just let me know. I mean, I love Respect Graduate School. You guys are awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
We hope to see each other again on another program. Thank you and goodbye.
God bless you.